but I've used Riverside for
Okay.
well, I think I've done like 20 podcasts on Riverside.
You've done 20 podcasts?
I think so far it's like 20 or like 50.
Shoo.
Look at you.
No, I mean like episodes, not like different podcasts.
No, I know. Yeah.
Your
that's still-
own
that's still amazing.
episodes?
Yeah, no, like this podcast that I run for AI innovation in veterinary medicine. I've brought like 15 people or so. Yeah.
Okay. That's amazing.
Love it.
Well,
Cool.
that's a good kind of segue to, jump right into it. Well, Kevin, thank you for being on the podcast, man. How you doing today?
All good, all good. Thank you for having me, guys. It's really excited.
Yeah. So 15 podcasts. That's impressive. You enjoy doing podcasts?
Yeah, I do. I think it's fun. I think you get to meet people, you get to talk. I also run them like you guys, like just casual, no script. It's like see what we talk.
Yeah. How have you found, like, what is the format? Like, I know it's no script, but like, is there a format as far as like you talk 15 minutes, you talk 2 hours? Do you like, what are the specific people that you bring on, or you try to?
Yeah. So I always try to keep it 15 minutes.
15. Okay.
Just so that I don't know, I'm trying it out. I'm not a pro podcaster here, and so I think 15 minutes is like a good way into getting people at least to get to know it, and if they like it, then maybe I'll extend them later on. But I bring like veterinarians or people in the industry that have experience or interest of played with AI in the space one way or another, whether it is like for diagnostics, for radiology, for medical records, for imaging, for wearables, for vision, like whatever it is in terms of like innovation and particularly focus on AI for the veterinary medicine industry. Bring people in and then talk with them and learn from them, and that's it.
Yeah, I hear
cool.
AI is real big nowadays. I don't know. There's I keep hearing about it everywhere.
Just a little bit.
So you don't have like set questions for those 15 minutes? Because I'll tell you, I used to have my own podcast back in the day in COVID times. And even now, we've done a few, and every time it feels like it takes a good, like, I don't know, it's like stretching. The first 15, 20 minutes, like stretching. It's like, okay, like getting the feel for it. And then 20, 30 minutes in, people start relaxing. They start telling their stories, and then there's a flow.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, like you can watch a couple of the ones that I've done and you can tell me yourself. I think like keeping it pretty casual from the very beginning and like being friendly. I don't know, like the people that I've brought in are pretty friendly and pretty open and like just casual people that just want to chat and discuss things that they know. And I make it very explicit. I say, look, guys, like this is gonna be 15 minutes. I will probably start shutting the whole thing down by the time we get to 14 minutes or so. And so I'm gonna be asking questions. Normally I start, there's no script, but I do start with like their background and who they are, right? And why are they in the podcast? Why did I bring them and not some other people? And then they start telling me what they've done, what they like, where do they see things, and like you said before, like we double click on some things that I find interesting, and 14 minutes.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Sorry, buddy, we gotta go.
Yeah. Well, that's perfect. We'll steal your intro and like, who the hell are you, Kevin? And what's your background and what is VetRec and why are you here? We'd love to learn a little bit more about you and the company.
I'm Kevin. I'm a pro podcaster. So I'm Kevin. I'm originally from Venezuela. My background is in software engineering. I'm a computer scientist at heart. I spent 7 years in Microsoft in Seattle building AI applications and big data platforms. And then recently, last year, me and my co-founder, who I met in college, Penn State, for everyone who's listening from Penn State, we decided to venture into the startup space. We actually started in the startup space with a completely different idea. By the way, not many people know this, but we didn't start with VetRec and became successful with VetRec on day one. It's like sometimes people are like, wow, VetRec is so successful overnight. And it's like, yeah, no overnight. Like we failed 3 startups for 7 months before VetRec.
Yeah.
So
wow.
We actually went through Combinator, the famous accelerator program. I don't know if you guys are familiar with.
Just to interrupt you for a second. So when you went to Y Combinator, was it through after these failed 7 months, or was it the idea before VetRec?
That's the funny thing, which is, my co-founder told me, hey, it was around the time that ChatGPT came out. right? So early
Okay.
2023, and he's like, hey, why don't we apply to Y Combinator? There's this idea we could do about helping restaurants with ChatGPT. And I'm like, oh, sure.
Wow. Okay.
And he's like, yeah, let's apply to Y Combinator. And I'm like, ah, man, we're not going to get into Y Combinator. We don't have anything. We got into Y Combinator, and the Y Combinator team actually told us, look, guys, like the majority of people that we get in here are because we see like good co-founder energy, synergy. You guys have grit. You showed us progress since the time that you applied till the time that we actually got this interview. We actually don't think this restaurant idea has any wheels or any legs. We just really like you too. And it's one of the, I think, philosophy from Y Combinator as well in how they pick people. And, of course, at the beginning, we said, these guys don't know anything. We're going to continue with our restaurant stuff. 2 weeks later, we stopped the restaurant stuff.
I guess they knew something.
They knew something.
Yeah. They sniffed it out.
Yeah. And then we switched that idea to like building developer tools for, selling to developers about how to build AI applications faster, because we had some experience with ChatGPT and whatnot. That was interesting, but that was trying to use technology to solve a problem that didn't exist. The classic dilemma of a programmer who wants to just build something, right? And we fell into that trap. We had an interesting vision, but one of the common feedbacks that we got was that we weren't focused. We were trying to do too many things at the same time and not a clear solution into solving an actual problem. And we actually spent 6 months doing that. And it got to a point where it was like, okay, like, do we want to continue doing this and seeing if something happens, or like go to the whiteboard and try to see if all of this experience that we got from all of these 6 months and all of our experience, of course, we can actually think of something that can actually be useful for some people. And I have 2 dogs. It was about the time that I was taking my puppy then to the veterinarian. We have some friends and families in the vet space. And when you're pivoting, when you're building a startup that you don't have a clear idea, you always see things differently. Like, oh, why is that chair there? Could I make a business out of that chair? And yeah, it's true. Like, you start thinking about those things. And then, I took my puppy to the vet and I saw it first time. The vet was pretty much 80% of the time looking at the computer. And I was like, why did I bring my dog here? And then I started asking, the friends and families in the space. And the common feedback was that, we're burdened, it's a lot of stress, the mental health of these medical records. And, I did not know too much about the vet space other than my 2 dogs and the diarrhea cases that my dog normally has. But I didn't extensively know about it. But that's when we started to learn, talk to people, knock on doors. Lots of people said, I don't need this. But, we kept going. We knew that we had something in there. There were some other players in there still early that, were doing something similar. And we said, look, like, we have some experience in the AI space that many people might not have because of our computer science background, if you will. Let's try to just build an MVP and see from there. And look, we got our first customer in February. We started this in early January, late December. We went to VMX. I didn't know what VMX was. And we got our first customer from VMX, and since then it's just taken off.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, you nailed it on the head. It's like, once you start thinking of like, okay, I know I want to build something, I want to solve a problem, the world just never looks the same.
Oh, yeah.
And I've had to force myself to be like, try to block everything else unless it's related to pets, because that's how I just try to like see everything through that lens. Right. And this is an interesting one. I actually spoke to somebody like a year ago who was trying to build an MVP for like the exact same idea, because I remember they saw Scribe and had a similar experience to you. And I think they failed because they had shiny object syndrome and were trying to build like 17 different things with AI around the same time and didn't really capitalize on it. But that's cool that so the conference is what essentially brought you your first customer, and then from that first customer, you got validation, you got them in, and then what did you do next for customers 2 through X?
A lot. I used to drive, like, after the conference that we got this first customer that was very hands-on, right? And they were barely paying us, like, but it's still okay. Like it's a customer, right? We said, okay, like people are willing to pay, and if I showed you the app back then, you would never pay for that today. It's like, wow. But yeah, that's part of the MVP. And back then, that was good. Like today, you're expecting more, right? And then look, guys, like I drove in Seattle for like 4 days to almost every vet clinic that I could find nearby. Knocked on doors, knocked on doors, knocked on doors. It's funny enough because a lot of people that told me no, 6 months later, they signed up because they started catching up on the trends and whatnot. And I'm like, no, I went to you 6 months ago. Maybe you don't remember me, but I do. So I think I drove all around, and started knocking on doors. My co-founder helped with that as well, but he was also making sure that the MVP were a little bit better and more polished. And we got, I think, the first 5 to 7 to maybe 10, just by driving around and walking around and knocking on doors, and a little bit of that word of mouth from the first 1, 2, 3 customers. Wow, this is revolutionary. Let me talk to my friend. And I think once we hit that 10th customer, really network effect started helping us. Almost all of those customers loved it so much that they shared it with all of their people. So I think our first 10 customers, I would say, are the ones that introduce us to the next 10, to the next 20.
That's the dream.
That's the dream,
That's
right?
the dream. And I guess two things to that is we should probably actually talk about what the hell your product is. And so yeah, let's start there. Actually, let's just start there. So what is VetRec?
It's a podcast as a service. No, I'm joking. So VetRec, we've evolved it, right? We started as an AI scribe for veterinarians, helping veterinarians with the medical records, so that it automates them using AI, so that they don't need to spend hours at the end of the day writing these medical records. And we've evolved since then to more of this AI assistant. In fact, that's how we call it ourselves today, where we help at different stages of your documentation workflow, not only the medical records, but maybe before you see a client, after you see a client, and a couple of other things that we've introduced with like this AI agents concept and whatnot. But in short, it's an AI assistant that helps veterinarians and veterinary professionals, staff, everyone in the clinic to they're being more efficient with AI in terms of all of the documentation needs that they need to do.
Yeah, so like the initial product was, and correct me if I'm wrong, because this is kind of like what I saw before. I think is it Scribe? That was the big one, Scribe Note, that I remember seeing.
Actually, Scribe Note was the first.
Yeah. So the idea here is that like I'm a vet, maybe I'm a really small practice and I don't even have vet techs or whatever in here, and like I'm 80% of the time, like you experienced, at my computer and trying to talk to you out of the side of my mouth. But in this case, I can set up a phone, tablet, computer, hit record, it transcribes everything I said, puts it in. I can go and edit those SOAP notes, right? Which is all the medical records, and then be able to actually submit that. And so that's where you started, and now that's interesting. I didn't realize that you've now branched into going a step further.
Of course.
And helping with okay, that's cool.
You always have to innovate, right? Because there's competition, and our competitors, like the good thing about competitors, people always ask me, it's like, oh, aren't you afraid that these guys are there and they're doing this and they signed with this? And it's like, honestly, no. Like, I'm just focused on my stuff. I'm doing well. Like, our company is doing well, and we're going to continue to do well if we focus on our things and the plan that we have ahead, and understand that competition is good, actually, to push each other. We've launched some things from the very beginning that nobody else has, that I see some other competitors now adding, and in a way we push them, and I've seen them do some other stuff that it's very interesting to see. And it's not about like copying things. I'm sure that they also had them in the roadmap and whatnot, but it might push you to make it faster. It might push you to launch it there. And when you see people, especially like some people that I've brought to the podcast, that have said how this AI innovation is catching very, very fast in VetMed, it's, I think, because companies like ours and our competitors that are constantly pushing each other, constantly delivering new things. And, now it's not just an AI scribe, it's an AI assistant. And then who knows what's going to be later. I mean, we do know some things, but I'm not going to say. But, like it's constantly pushing you. So, like that's totally fair and totally fine. When people ask me about competitors, I actually think it's a good thing.
It's validation for sure. So going back to your customers, right? So the 10 that got you your next 10. Yeah. So those initial set of customers, walk us through like who they were. And what I mean by that is like, are these vets that were product aware, like knew that there was something that could take these, soap notes for them, like via AI, voice to text? And then B, are these all independent? Because we all know that vet clinics were one of the biggest, if not the biggest, target for PE roll-ups. And so like, were you getting involved in like, were you basically be able to seed inside of like a portfolio and then sprinkle through down to all of those vet clinics?
So today we're doing that, right? And our competitors also, like we've signed deals with corporate and we've announced some of them publicly. And we even have announcements with colleges, Cornell College of Vet Med and Texas College of Med now are using VetRec, right? And today we're at a point where, thank God we've grown that we're going and trying to get these colleges and corporates or maybe sprinkle down like you're saying a little bit more and trying to be as efficient as we can in helping the most veterinarians that we can, which is the ultimate goal. When we started this, definitely no, that was not the right strategy, because people were like, who are you? And I don't care about you, right? And so, yeah, the initial people were independent vets, independent clinics, or maybe clinics that were part of some corporate, but we never even had the idea of like going to corporate after this clinic. Like we needed validation first. We needed to make sure that our product was good and not like we have to shoot our shot, but you also have to shoot your shot in a strategic way, right? Like we had to have a portfolio of veterinarians that were speaking good for VetRec, that, were constantly giving feedback for the product. So, we had independent vets, we had some clinics that were part of PEs and corporates, but independently paying, if you will. And actually those were the ones that, for some of the deals that are, public today, we started with some clinics that then they went to the regional manager, then they went to their VP of sales, then they went to the VP of clinical operations. And so it started like bottom up, if you will, because we had an entry with either one veterinarian or one practice manager or a specific clinic that then helped us push forward. But I would say that for the first 10, 20, maybe they were, independent clinics or part of very small groups or, along those lines, and maybe even a couple that were part of like big groups. But again, like we never, at that stage, we never even considered going to them yet, because we needed that good validation to make the product better and solve away like the kinks and nuances of, like this is not working.
Yeah. I think something that's always interesting that doesn't get talked about enough, and I would love to ask you this, is when people say knocking on doors, which is the best way to start, right? Lowest barrier to entry. It's a hustle. It's a grind.
Yeah.
You walk into, your 5th vet clinic in Seattle. Walk us through that process. Do you go straight to the front desk and be like, hey, I need to speak to a vet here? Like, just what does that even look like in actually walking through the door and trying to pitch yourself?
Hard and lots of rejection. Like one of the things that me and my co-founder, and I think this is one of the things that YC also saw in us, it's like grit and resilience, right? If I did not have that, I would probably not be where we are today in terms of the number of rejections that I got the first week. Like it was just unsurmountable. Like everyone pretty much said no, but it helped us tailor the pitch better. And at that stage, you will probably get 50 no's and 1 yes, but then that one yes will help distribute across the other 50 no's. So that's some background context. But you walk into the clinic, chances are that you're not going to speak to the vet. In fact, I don't have a number, but I would say less than 5% of the time I got to speak to a vet, and I went to a lot of clinics. And so you walk into the clinic. The first person that you see in there is the receptionist, client, the success manager there that is in the front side of the clinic. And you have two options, which I A/B tested as well, right? Is A, do the pitch to them and hope that they're interesting enough that they see some value and then they introduce you to someone or they give you a business card or something, or directly ask for a practice manager or a technician or for a veterinarian, which honestly, again, never happened. And so we sort of A/B tested that. Some cases it worked better, some cases it didn't work better. I pretty much did like 50% every time I went to a clinic. I was like, okay, I already did this one, then I'm going to do this one on this other one. Probably I would have done a more structured approach now that I think about it. But when I pitch to the receptionist, a lot of the times where, look, like I'm not the decision maker, email here. Okay. Sometimes I pitch to the receptionist, and the receptionist sometimes in the vet clinics are sometimes the technicians itself as well that are helping at the front desk, if you will. Those were the best moments when the receptionist there was the technician or the practice manager, because then they knew way more immediately and could see the value. Oh, okay, this is interesting. Yeah. Do you want to do a lunch and learn? And so we did a bunch of lunch and learns here in Seattle. Do you want to send me your information? Like those were a little bit better. And so there was a little bit more engagement. One thing that I will say though is that I had the pitch, tailored like 30 seconds. And I would open up my phone, I would show them, look, this is record. Let's just do a 10-second recording right here, like literally live there in the receptionist space there while other people were waiting there. Like I would come in and do a pitch in 30 seconds. Because if it took more than that, I would lose them. And so I think that was important to really nail down. And like I said, like sometimes they got engaged. Most of the times were either not interested or email this, and probably that email this never got a response. But that's
yeah.
it's like the pitch and the grind, and like just keep going even though you get rejected, and try to land a technician or a practice manager. A veterinarian was going to be very, very, very hard. And then from them, try to schedule lunch and learns, or do a further virtual demo or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think it's underrated to knock on doors. It's one of those, it's like people nowadays, for the most part, if they try to get, I don't know, product service out there, they're like, oh, I emailed the person, I never heard back. It's like, well, go knock on the door. Like I remember I had a CPG company in New York, and I was going from gyms to yoga studios to little supermarkets to bodegas to just everything, where I was like, they have a fridge, they can put our product potentially there. And the same thing, like you go in and, there's a guy who's working there and he's not the manager. He's like, he doesn't care, and you're just wasting his time, and you have to pitch him this thing. He's like, yeah, come tomorrow. The manager is going to be here.
Manager will be here.
Yeah. So it's like, all right, but then you go to the next place or the next place. And like you said, like it's just, you're discouraged for hours on end because everyone's like, ugh, what does this pest like want from me right now, right? But then like one guy or girl, whatever, right? One place you go into, and the person like, oh, wow, this is a really cool product. This is amazing. Like, we would love to have this. Like, yes, I got this. That's that kind of that validation. And being an entrepreneur, and like you said, being resilient and knowing how to grind, like, it's like instant amnesia. I don't even remember those 50 no's. Like, all I remember is that one yes.
Precisely.
Well, I think what you, like, my little insight I got from that story that you told about that process was like, you basically became a IRL TikTok. Like you were this 30 seconds and hey, I got this screen and I'm showing it to you. It's like it's like, how can I translate that short attention span? Like stop the scroll, get this person's attention, show the value in that 30 seconds. And like, that's a big unlock, especially when it's like someone who does understand the problem, because if it's a vet tech, they've been in the room, they might be the one taking the notes. So that's like,
they use it. Like,
yeah, exactly. That's pretty big. I want to touch on the, especially since it's super recent, like you said, the college partnerships. So congrats on those and partnering with Texas A&M, although Texas, UT Austin's definitely, the big brother there. But that's still, I mean, they're great. They're known across the country for having an insanely amazing vet school. So walk us through like how that deal came about, and what does that deal look like? What does that look like for you from a business standpoint?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I'll share a little bit about the Texas A&M one. We also partner with Cornell, but that one's a different story. Let me share a little bit on the Texas A&M. So it also involved a little bit of hustle and grit as well, as everything, right? But like in terms of like being there. So we one of the things that we did on our product that we saw that our competitors didn't really do at the very, very beginning, and maybe this was like a developer mindset that we had from a long time ago, was self-serve. You want to come use VetRec? Go and use it. That has a double-edged sword. One of the edges is, wow, I don't need to pay. I don't need to talk to anyone. I can just use it. They have a free trial of like 5 days, 7 days, 14 days, whatever it is. But like I can just use it. I don't need anyone to tell me or like jump on a sales call. I don't want to do that. I just want to use it. And you're maybe used to these things in like the dev space or like productivity tools. And like imagine if, I don't know if you guys use Notion, but imagine if to use Notion, you would have to talk to a person. It's like, no, I just want to use the Notion and like see it for myself, right? Or Outlook, like it's self-serve. And so we had this idea, and so those things help. And you'll see why I'm telling you about this story. But then the other double-edged sword is that at a very early company, your product is not mature enough. And so the downside is that, you come in, you have a self-serve, and it's not intuitive. You don't know what to do. You don't understand it. And the first time experience is not great, and you actually lose that customer forever, because they try to use your product and it's like, this product sucks. I'm not going to use it. And you can literally lose them forever. I mean, unless, they come again and like whatever, right? But like in general lines, like it's a double-edged sword, and it's a fine line that you need to walk when you are such an early company, right? I think right now all of our competitors have like self-serve as well, but I think we were one of the first ones that did not require you to speak to someone. And I think that actually helped. To the point, coming back to the story, that for Texas A&M, actually one of the professors at Texas A&M actually found us and tried it out. And with no intervention, they tried it out, and it actually clicked for them on their own. And they reached out, and it's like, this is an unbelievable tool. I would like to understand more. I'm a professor here at Texas A&M University, and I would like to learn more. Of course, I see that email. I'm like, holy shit. Like, what just happened here? And I immediately then threw all my energy into it, because what else do you like you need to go all into this person. And so how can I help? And then I jumped in calls and I showed them other features that they didn't even know, and they were like mind blown by what they were seeing. And it got to a point where I was like, look, I'm gonna go to Texas for this conference. It was in Austin. I can drive 1.5 hours and be in Texas A&M and do a demo for the dean and for other people. And they were like, I'm not the one calling the shots, but that could be a great idea. Let me circle back. And I'm like, okay. And they actually came back to me like 3 days later. Look, like I spoke with the committee or whatever, and we would love to host you here for a day. And I'm like, okay, perfect. I booked the plane. I rented a car literally after the conference. I drove all the way to Texas A&M. This magnificent professor and doctor that was there greeted me and hosted me, and then took me to like the conference with the dean and the other people. Everyone super, super, super friendly there. We've had nothing but like great partnership and great communication with them, and like they're super nice bunch of people to work with. I gave this presentation and I showed them. Everyone was like, oh my goodness, mind blowing, this. Some people have tried like other competitors by that time, and they saw some things that we had that they didn't, and they were like, wow, no, these guys are great. And it took some months, of course, till we closed that, right? It's a university, it takes time, but it helped us, to be there in person, similar to like the knocking on doors sort of thing, be that presence, making sure that, they were going to be an important customer, and we were going to do extra efforts to make sure that they were accounted for and supported by. And, till this day, some of the faculty professors are using it. Now we're going to start releasing the plan for the students and whatnot. So, now it's all good things from now, but, it's not that it happened overnight again, right? Like this conference was like, I don't know, September of last year. These things take time, but if you craft that relationship and you foster it, I mean, great things can happen. So that's a little bit of the story of the Texas A&M partnership and how that became to be. So
wow.
Yeah.
So what's that? Or go ahead, Roy.
No, I was just gonna say it's always a 10-year, 5-year, 3-year overnight success story. That's like, you only hear you only hear when it happens, but no one usually talks about that whole back end part where you had to work and hustle and build and struggle and et cetera, et cetera.
So what's that like? I don't know how much you can talk about it, but like just like a contractual situation? Is that like, do you have like a year-long thing? Is it a rolling monthly thing, or is it just they're using it? They just have like I don't know. Just tell us about what that looks like from the business standpoint.
Yeah, I think without going into, of course, confidential details and whatnot, I think the general line here is, we're partnering with universities twofold. The first thing is we want to help the faculty doctors that are doing cases and teaching as well, right? And understanding how they can help with the medical records for them specifically. There's a bunch of faculty doctors at this College of Veterinary Medicine. The other angle is, of course, helping the students and teaching them about this new technology that they're inevitably going to be using once they graduate. And how can they start using it? It's not that they're having a VetRec class in Texas A&M, like, of course not. But, like, as they do like their residency or their internship, or like, they go and talk to the faculty doctors and they work closely with them. They can use VetRec. They have like an account, if you will, for all of them. And we manage all of those things behind the scenes and whatnot. And so it's like teaching these students, and of course, I don't know if you know, but Texas A&M is the largest incoming class size every year in terms of number of students. So it's also super good for us because we're training these students in a way for tools and technology that they'll be able to use into the future. And look, like maybe they use VetRec and they go out and they graduate and they work at a clinic that is not using VetRec. It's fine. I mean, of course, I would love to be VetRec, but at the same time, we're helping them understand what is possible and this AI revolution that's coming, and whether it is VetRec or not. Like, I think we did a good thing in there in terms of setting them up for success into that future of like that after graduation. And then the other thing, again, from like a partnership and why this makes sense, there's a lot of soon enough lots of people will see what we're doing, but like there's a lot of like research opportunities in terms of how with an AI assistant and the data that is being collected, if you will, and whatnot, about the cases and the diagnostics and all of this information that's getting transcribed, if you will, can be used to further enhance the quality of veterinary medicine and research itself. And like for the universities, that's actually super important for keeping advancing the quality of the industry as a whole, right? And so, I know I spoke quite a bit, but like contractually, those are the things of why these universities are partnering with us. And, typically is a long-term partnership, not so much a month-to-month, I'm going to use it one time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a full-fledged like partnership into all of these different initiatives that we can do, right? And I think that's so far what we've worked. And look, like credit where credit is due. I'll say it in the podcast here. We recently saw that Skrillvet, which is another of our competitors, also announced a partnership with the University of Florida, which is great. Like, I think in the end, you would have to be naive to think that you will be the only one across all of the universities in the United States or in the world that, like, no, of course not, right? And again, this is about competition. We were the first ones, which I think it's cool, but it's all about advancement of the industry and advancing the industry. And like I said, like maybe some of the students in the University of Florida, they will leave and they would work at clinics that use Skrillvet, great. Or maybe they will work at clinics that use VetRec, but they will already have context about AI because they were taught about these things. So in the end, like it's all goodness, and great stuff from the Skrillvet folks as well on partnering with the University of Florida. So
when you were in
yeah.
No, I was just going to
ahead,
ask,
Roy.
when you were in YC, how many startups did you see there that had nothing to do with AI?
When I was in YC, I mean, I think today the metric is something like 80% of the batch
It's got to be at the minimum.
Yeah, it's like 80% or something. I think when we were there, it was probably like 60% of the batch was like AI. Nobody was doing veterinary medicine. And remember, when we were doing YC, during our batch, if you will, the time that we lived in San Francisco, actually, we weren't doing VetRec as well. We were still doing AI. But yeah, the restaurant and the developer tools one, that was still like AI focused. So we were still an AI company, but we were not doing like veterinary. I think over the past 2 years, like there has been, I think 1 or 2 that have come out for veterinary medicine, not to do what we're doing, but like some other stuff like front facing help or whatnot. But yeah, like definitely right now it's like 80% or more of AI companies for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be everything's AI. Even if it's not AI, they'll just add a little AI component to it, and it's an AI company at that point. But I think you guys have been around for a minute, and I'm assuming for the most part it was just you and your co-founder. But now I've been seeing on LinkedIn for the past couple of months or so, you guys have just been going on a hiring spree. So, I guess one is, so you must have raised some capital, obviously, to hire a bunch of people. So how much? And then B, I'll take, because there's like a few questions here. But yeah, let's start with that one. Like, how much did you raise?
So I won't disclose the exact amount here.
Oh, come on.
I think it's public information that everybody can see.
Okay.
When you're part of Y Combinator, you get $500,000 for your company.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's like the standard Y Combinator deal that every company that goes to Y Combinator goes through that. That's no secret. We did raise a little bit from like angel investors and whatnot, but like we never really got into like, let's do like a big round sort of thing because we were also doing like pivoting, right? We were thinking what we were doing and whatnot. So I'm not going to disclose the exact amount, but I think it's beyond the point. Like I think the main thing that I wanted to convey here is that me and my co-founder were very strict in terms of how we use the money and focusing on what matters, which is not to announce that we did a $5 million seed round and, oh my goodness, look at us because we raised money.
So $5 million.
There's so many companies that fail because they raised money and they don't do anything with it because they still don't have a product. So like the bragging should not be how much money you raise. The bragging should be how your projection of customers have been and like whether you're actually solving a problem, which is what we were focusing on. And we just focused on the revenue, guys. Like we just focused on getting these customers happy, signing more deals, signing universities, signing corporates. Like the revenue spoke for itself. And at this point, we keep hiring and we of course have that capital from YC and whatnot, but like that's what we've been focusing on really. Just making sure that we allocated, strategically, but also just focus on the customer growth and the customer love.
Yeah, that's amazing. Because there is that metric where so many companies are focused on, there's a benchmark. We raised X amount of money. It's like, cool, but what's the revenue? How many customers? What are we doing? But to piggyback off the first question was, I guess, what's it like now being in not a 2 or 3 person team, but a 7, 8, or 10, however many people that you've kind of hired over the past couple of months? And then what is the process like? What are some things that you are looking for when you're hiring these new people to the team?
Yeah, for sure. 13.
13.
But 13 is the official number today. Look, we started, me and my co-founder, and I think we hired our first person. I don't know, May 2024, like 5 months after we were deep into like, okay, we validated that this is something that we want to do. The worst thing that I could do, and we saw this with some other YC companies, was overhiring when you didn't have like product market fit, or overhiring when you had an idea and you thought you were going to make it big, but you didn't have any conviction. And so it's not that we didn't have any conviction at the beginning, but for me, it was way easier to convince someone and share my vision and my co-founder's vision with tangible things of how your company is doing and the progress that we've seen versus luring employees from like big tech. There's people from Microsoft that have come to our company that I could never have convinced them in full confidence in January 2024, and it would actually be like straight up lie, like, oh yeah, we're gonna be this big thing, like trust us. And it's like, no, we're sort of responsible for the well-being of these people that we're hiring. Mm-hmm. And you want to set them up for success as well. I don't want to hire someone to help me with 3 months, and then if it fails, sorry, go find your previous job. That's a complete disservice to them and to us. And so in May we hired our first person, and I think in July we hired our second person. And we already had good traction in there, and we saw that, okay, startups can fail, of course. There's 99% that a startup fails, but we have conviction, we have traction. At least we're doing the right things. I can confidently say, without lying, about the vision and the mission that we have and how we're doing. And if it fails, it fails, and it could happen. But at least we have this founder level conviction that we can hire someone and actually deeply, instill the message of what we're trying to do. And so we hired our second employee, I think around August. And it's funny because at that point, most of our competitors had more than 5 or 10 people. And some people in some groups were actually telling us, we're concerned, right? Like, we're evaluating you and other competitors, and your competitors have 6 more employees than you have. And I'm like, okay, good for them. I mean, what can I tell you? Like, we are still growing. We're still having lots of customers. We're efficient because we know how to build things in terms of automating stuff so that we don't need to hire extra people if we don't need to. We only hire the very best. I'm not saying the others did not hire the very best, but like for us, hiring is, again, not a metric in terms of, oh, we raised 5 million. Oh, we are now an 100-person company. Vanity metrics, vanity metrics. Like, the point here is, are you solving a problem, and are you helping people, and are the people that you're helping happy? That's the only thing that matters. Not how much money you raise or how many size the company is. And we focused on that. And again, that's a little bit of like the YC advice that they tell you as well, right? But we got to this point, of course, in August, September, where I think we hired our third person, and this is when really things started to kick off. And since September till March, we've hired 9 people.
So how do you go? Sorry to interrupt. I'm just interested. So for people that are maybe in a similar position where you were in that third, the first person you were hiring, like you have some goals that you want to achieve in the next 6 months. You're just starting to see some traction. You have X amount of money in the bank, maybe 5 million, maybe no, we don't know. All right, there's money in the bank.
Money in the bank.
Yeah, and you're like, all right, what are the like? We need a marketing guy. We need a marketing person. We need this person, or we need someone for growth, or we need a technical person to help with AI. Like, what are those things? Knowing that you have finite amount of money to allocate, how do you choose kind of next step and the person to bring on?
Yeah, good question. Look, let's see. One of the main things that I think has stood up from our company is the fact that David, my co-founder, and I are both technical. So while David did pretty much all the MVP, and he's the wizard behind the company, as I always tell, and coded pretty much everything that you've seen in VetRec today, we were both technical. And that's always good because I can jump in and help with some quick things, or if he wants to leverage some ideas with me, we can go back and forth and like, oh, maybe we should do this design, or we should do this design, we should do this thing. So like the speed of iteration, in addition, of course, the fact that David is just a beast at shipping code, it's way faster, and it helps you go faster in terms of the features that you want to do and what's out there. One thing that we wanted to double down on was on the business side of things and on the veterinary medicine specific side of things. So our first hire was Alon. Alon is ex-founder on veterinary medicine as well. He co-founded the company called PetTriage. I don't know if you know about that one, but it's teletriage using a little bit of AI as well to understand whether you should see a veterinarian or not if you call the clinic, and it went through this algorithm and stuff. So there we have this guy who knew a little bit of AI stuff, who co-founded a company, so knows the grit, knows what it takes to be a founder, and knows a lot of things about veterinary medicine because also his dad is a renowned veterinarian in the Seattle area as well. So it was literally for us like, wow, like great experience and great things that we needed at that moment right now in terms of how can we go and start branching and start going more aggressive to sales and whatnot. So he came from like the business side of things. He's our head of business development today. The next person that we hired, and I'm not going to tell you all of the people that we hired story, just these two, was one of my ex-coworkers from Microsoft, a beast at software engineering as well, Sanath. I used to be his mentor in Microsoft, so I worked a lot with him. And just to answer your point, Roy, before, and like why we look for things specifically on those first 5-10 people, it's people that we can trust, people that we have heard from, that people recommended through us, people that we've seen, or maybe we did a trial on at the beginning. Like it's very important to have the first 10 people create this culture, this cohesive environment in your company, because those are the ones that are probably going to stay the longest once you hire more people and distill that vision. And with Sanath, I had a great relationship with, and we lured him from Microsoft. And again, it's what I was telling you before, that it would have been a complete dishonor and disservice if I were to poach him in January when we barely had something. Like at this point, there's still risk, but when we hired him, we had more stuff, and he greatly accepted because he believed in it as well. Which another point to the point that you were saying about how to hire these people. One of the things that we did that again our competitors did not have, I think, or maybe some did, was these video testimonials on our website. These video
Yeah, I've
testimonials
seen those.
have actually helped close new businesses
Social
because they've seen
proof.
it and they're like, oh my goodness. But employees, like almost all of the employees told us, I want to work at a company where I see that level of customer love and validation, social proof, like you were saying, Colin. You know, I worked in Microsoft 7 years, and I love the validation that some of my partners gave me, but I never had the impact that I am having, for example, today in VetRec, in literally changing people's lives, literally changing people's lives for the better. And when people see that, and you know, they don't want to work in corporate anymore, or they're looking for something else, or they've been unemployed and they want to try something like when they see that, you know, there's a clear impact that this company is having in this society, in this industry. And you know, for us, it's super super important to have people be drawn to that mission and not just like find a new job. And almost like, I would say, like every single person in our company today believes in that mission, have seen those testimonials, have seen that impact that we've had, and you know, have come with us in this journey. And the other last thing that I will say, and I know I've spoken a lot here on the hiring piece,
That's why we brought you on.
Roy, was like, you know, business, engineering, and support, customer success. If you take a look at the video testimonials, I would say 90% of the video testimonials that we have in the website, all of them say the VetRec success and support team is amazing. Sometimes they even just talk about the support. And I'm like, okay, great, but can you also talk about the product?
Yeah.
So that people know that we're also a good product. It's unbelievable how that has helped. And we've still today, with, you know, lots of veterinarian on our platform, we still deliver that quick, fast response and tailored and personalized approach of how we can connect with these people who actually need that empathy and like that deep connection, and like making sure that we can help them. And you know, our first couple of people, and in fact, like all of the people that we have on the customer success team today are ex-technicians, ex-practice managers, or you know, ex-emergency technicians, like people that knew, walk the walk, talk the talk, and were immediately drawn to this vision because, well, they experienced it. They experienced the burnout. They saw how the veterinarians were suffering. They themselves were suffering of like medical record burden. And so that has helped a lot as well in terms of who we hire on this customer success team, because when the veterinarian goes and asks the questions about how this AI is not doing this and it should be doing this and whatnot, immediately they receive a response from somebody that they can connect to. And I always joke with my team. It's like, look, guys, like sometimes a veterinarian asked me, you know, why this test results was like this and this. And to be honest, I did not have too much answer there because I do not know the specifics about why a specific lab test result should be this and why our AI didn't do that. But in how I motivate the team, like you guys know that where I tell the success team, the support team, you should feel empowered to go and tell them these things that you've seen and that you understand, because it's a great way to empathize with the clients that we have. And so, long story short, you know, a little bit of business, heavy on engineering, and heavy on support that is truly empathetic to the people that we have, I think is what has made the company successful. So
That's, yeah, I could see that honestly, like, anecdotally speaking, not having been practicing or been on any part of the business side in the vet space, I could still say that it is easily, it's like one of the biggest spends, if not the biggest spends on the consumer side, right? Vet services. And then it's also like the most antiquated. And we're seeing now, like Roy and I have talked to a lot of people, including yourself, and we've written about it quite a bit too. Like we're actually seeing pretty seismic activity on people trying to tackle it, especially with AI. I mean, just because the tools are there, it's unbelievable. And you also have to bring, like, traditionally these laggards, right? Like a lot of these processes are old and antiquated and they do things by paper. So I could see how not only I'm using a new technology and I'm trying to figure this out, but it's like a company that is AI first, tech first, and founded by tech founders understands how important it is to like have a human or support them. And I'm sure most of the software and things that they've used before are like 15, 20 years old. And it probably takes them weeks, if not, days or weeks to like get a response back. So that's pretty amazing. And I could totally see how that is like an absolute selling point for a vet clinic.
An asset.
Yeah.
Like people.
two things. I wanted to do a choose your own adventure with a little bit of the time we have left. Is one is you're technical AI. You're doing more things than just scribing notes. Like AI agents this is the year of AI agents. So if you want to talk more about how you're maybe implementing those, are some of those employees AI agents? We could choose that path, and I know they're not, but or the other thing I'd love to hear about, if you're interested in talking about this, is like, what do you see as the next big step or big opportunity in the vet services space, whether you're tackling it yourself or if it's something that's like tangentially related to what you're doing now?
Yeah, lots to unpack there. Let's maybe talk a little bit about the second one, and I can also touch on the first one. So, I ask these people, like I ask the people that come to the podcast that I was telling you that I run, the same question. It's like, where are we going? And I actually have learned from them to understand how I can think about these things as well in terms of the future. So, look, there's a couple of interesting ideas that me and my co-founder have thought in terms of like where this is going. So I think the first thing is that if you know about AI, you know that medical record generation or the large language models, text generation, like it's just one side of it. There's this whole concept of multimodality, right? Where basically what that means is these AI models that will be able to understand and provide information in a different model, not only text. So images, audio, vision, right? And so I've actually talked to some people where, there's some interesting ideas into how AI, for example, in the AR, in the VR, in the vision space, can actually go and propel the industry even further. So I don't know. Think about this. Instead of having a scribe that is listening to the recording, you have a camera, and everything is getting recorded into the room, and you'll be able to understand based on the body language of a particular dog trends, things that they're seeing, things that you might have missed on how the dog scratched the ear or how the dog sat or how the cat jumped around. Like there's these things that probably you'll be able to see when a veterinarian goes in there, but there's some things that you could possibly capture that are more than just on the audio side of things or on the text generation side of things. So that's interesting. That's something that I've heard and that I've talked to people about, and it's like another frontier. It's also a little bit more complex in terms of the technology behind it. There's also the concept of wearables, which I'm sure you're familiar with, and this is not something new. There's companies that have been doing the wearable space for a while, but I think with all of these new insights on the data that you can process and aggregate with AI, in addition to data that is being emitted, for example, from wearables, and maybe even comparing that with the vision stuff that I was telling you that is in the console, then you can have a new profile of like what's actually going on based on this other set of like different proxies that are giving you this information. So I think that's also something very interesting in terms of ways that you can gather data and ways that you can help make a decision of what's going on. Ultimately, that's what you want: help the patient as much as you can and deliver the best excellent care, and of course help the veterinarian with the burden along the way. So that
just gave me the vision. Like, Brian Johnson,
Brian Johnson,
the don't die guy who's like spends $2 million on him. I just like you saying all of that and getting that like profile. I'm like, oh my God, there's going to be a dog that ends up, or a cat that ends up taking all of this social space where they're like just at the absolute cutting edge DEXA scans. Like
could be.
I mean, it's cool. I would love it, right? Anything to make them live. Like we're all everyone's interested in the pet space for ultimately, I think first and foremost is longevity. So anything that pushes that forward, right?
Speaking about that, I'm sure you guys know Loyal, right? Like
big fans.
I don't understand anything about it. In fact, I've asked a veterinarian to explain to me, and the veterinarian actually told me, I also don't fully understand. I need to reread a lot of these things because it's such a novel concept.
We had her on the newsletter. She explained to us, and I still don't understand it. So we're all in the same boat.
So, it's like, I don't understand, but like this could be an incredible frontier, right? And like now imagine this longevity thing with all of this other stuff that I was talking about. Like I think there's a lot of potential into where we can go from an AI, like incorporating all of this multimodality stuff and the different proxies, if you will, of like information that you can gather for a particular case, for a particular patient, for a particular vet. So I think that's one thing that excites me. And then of course
Yeah.
there's another thing that excites me as well, that not so much about AI particularly, but being able to democratize a lot of this data and a lot of these insights for the pet parent. You're doing a lot of these insights and different proxies that I was telling you in the medical records and whatnot that eventually get discharged and like dumped down for the client. But maybe better interface for that, maybe more. There's a lot of pet parents. I have two dogs that are increasingly, and there's studies to prove this, that are increasingly more affectionate and more connected to their pets in these days, right? Like compared to like 20 years ago. And the amount of toys and things that you buy for the dogs and the cats because it's going to prove that it's more longevity or whatever it is, right? Well, imagine if you can also have very quickly, very easy to understand, like insights and like preventative medicine, like, hey, yeah, based on these medical records and these wearables and these things that I saw, blah blah blah, chances are that over the next months this is what could happen, so you should probably take to the vet. Like these are important things that I would love to have a push notification on my phone that tells me these things. Like, why not? And maybe not everyone will know that, we will want that, but I think the trend is that the pet parents are also more connected to the pets. And if you can use all of these things that you're doing for AI for the vet med and maybe even port it to this other set of people, maybe you have also a very, very nice, interesting business, and also a level of impact that transcends the vet industry as a whole.
You touched on everything that I have been the most excited about, and I have started talking about 2 years ago, which was like, in the layman's terms, I'm like, why isn't there a damn dog dashboard? Like, I just want to see everything that's going on with my dog, ingest my medical records, tell me how to think about, maybe, oh, he's got like early arthritis, like here's suggested supplements, like, or here's like natural ingredients that you could use if that's what you choose. Like, just give me some guidance, right? Like, it doesn't have to be so black and white from like the vet. Like, I don't want it to be like under so much scrutiny that if the vet says something that it's, can get them in legal hot water. But it's like essentially a dashboard, right? It's like everything. And ingesting all of that, the data, like you said, being emitted from wearables, because wearables are getting better. There's some really interesting ones out there. That is probably single-handedly, from the consumer side, what I'm like rubbing my hands about.
I'm excited too.
There's some AI cameras now, like at-home cameras too, that are like detecting, it's not going to be maybe as good as wearables, but like they could be like, oh, your dog is doing this, so maybe they're uncomfortable, or they're not running enough, they look anxious, et cetera, et cetera. So they're starting to like decipher dog behavior, and that could extrapolate to they're unhealthy, they're unhappy, et cetera, et cetera. So there's just so much whereas like if you look 10, 20 years ago, when I was when I got my first adult dog 16 years ago, granted this wasn't in the US, so we had potentially less things, but there was nothing. Like, I'm talking nothing. A bed, some food, bon voyage. Like that's it. And now you're talking like beds with like cooling factors.
Acupuncturists, dog acupuncturists, like
acupuncture guys. It's
like it's like everything, and we keep talking about this in podcasts, like everything that is popular in human health or spirituality or any trend that's happening translates over to pet pretty quickly nowadays.
Easily.
Precisely.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that was a great note to end on. That was amazing. I'm super pumped. I wish I was in vet school right now so I could go use VetRec. That's cool, man. We're super pumped to follow the journey, and thank you, so much for your time. And I guess everybody, it's vetrec.io is the domain, right?
Yeah.
And then are you most prominent on LinkedIn or X or
LinkedIn? I think it's the way that
is your okay. All right. Kevin Cohen on LinkedIn. All right.
All right.
Awesome.
Appreciate your time today, man. It was great
Incredible.
talking to you.
Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it. I had fun.